Jack, let's start with you. You wanted to really make a statement here about how divided everyone is in a way, how everyone's bringing their own perspective in a very kind of bubble-like, limiting way. I'm curious, what inspired this?
Yeah, I do think that part of the movie is about how people kind of are so fragmented in their perspectives, more so now than ever. And I think, there's a lot of shared humanity in the movie, and I do think that it is a lot about how people go through the same things. I wanted to show how different people's experiences could be living just like blocks away from each other in the same city. And I think sometimes it feels like, we all are going through similar things, whether that is sort of addiction, mental health, problems, crises of meaning in our lives. But the way that these things play out kind of in our own internal way is almost like we're living in completely different movies than each other. And that's sort of part of what's going on thematically in the movie.
Yeah, definitely. What was it about the theme that resonated with all of you? I mean, this idea of, everyone kind of being in their own lane, and what are the points at which we actually do intersect,
Well, one of the first images of the film is hope, giant letters spelling hope. And I'm very interested in that, and we need a lot of it right now. And I think that this idea that, we're all living in these isolated states of suffering and being prescribed various, whether it be pills or iPhones or one sort of inane, destructive prescription after the next that's just pushing us farther and farther and farther down these, isolated wells of suffering. This film is looking at that and asking this question of, well, what do we do about this state of despair we're in? We're all confused about what to do about it. We no longer have the answers we used to have, namely God, and what God did for communities, church, and bringing people together. So it seems that we're all suffering alone with our kind of feeds. I mean, what do? Algorithms telling you what you specifically need to be worried about? But like Jack said, we do share an experience, and this film I do think is quite hopeful and really has heart and a sense of the true shared nature that we are all experiencing, which is one of connectedness and love. I mean, I actually think about the scene where Greg shows up nearly blinded because he's gone to rescue the truck.
Yeah.
And because he's so desperate to have these friends, right? He's nearly killed himself for it. And we all are in that same state of desperately needing one another. And I just think the movie shows it so beautifully that is kind of happening.
Yeah. No, I know what you mean, especially when you get online, just the intense feeling of isolation that you get, just the doom scrolling. And I've been there many times myself. But Jena, tell us about your character. Where is she coming from?
No one's seen the film yet, and so I love to just kind of wait, because I hate to know anything about a film before.
You like going in cold.
I mean, but I think just to reiterate and talk a little bit about what the film is that what I love is you were talking about, someone was like, what's this film about? And he's like, it's about perspective, and it's about a shift of perspective. And I think exactly what you're saying is it's so hard to shift the perspective. The transition, the transformation, that sort of fulcrum point is one of the hardest things to achieve all alone. You have to do it with a collective energy, a collective rise up. And I think every new generation has a different conundrum. And I think in this film, it's a very modern conundrum that needs healing and needs attention and it needs intimacy. And I think that by the end of it, I felt very hopeful, for our next chapter. And I think, I don't know, I think that we're all kind of just like crisis workers, just like resolving trauma as much as we can.
Yeah. And, you're right. Nobody's seen the film yet. It's, it's going to be a total
It's okay.
surprise.
Yours is a deep dive, and I feel like it's very appreciative. It makes me want to see the film when you say that story. I'm into it.
I mean, Talia, was it a similar thing that spoke to you about this film?
Yeah, I mean, it's a Definitely a one-of-a-kind, very original story. I feel like we're seeing a lot of remakes and spin-offs and whatnot, and a lot of content being made now, and this, to me, felt like a really different thing. I don't know, no spoilers, but there's a lot of twists and turns. And like Gaby and Jena were saying, I feel like the film touches on loneliness and isolation in a really, it sounds like corny, but honest way. I mean, my character specifically, she's really sad and I don't think knows how sad she is, and is looking for connection and feeling in some kind of misled places. And I just think she's a really relatable person, and I don't know. I think it'll be nice for people to see a sad girl on screen that kind of doesn't really get her lick back. Like, she's just kind of, she's down, and it may not be where she wants to receive hope from, but she does receive hope in the film. And you aren't left feeling really depressed, or maybe you kind of are, but I think you're left with hope in some way. But yeah, I don't know. I related to it, and it excited me, and Jack excited me. He's a really cool guy.
Yeah, I mean, Jack, is that what you hope people will take away from the film? You know, as a feeling of hope. You know,
Definitely, I think that there is sort of an earnestness that I hope comes through in the movie. It's something that, I mean, in a larger sense, I'm trying to say with the movie too, is that it's sort of trying to signify, hopefully, like a departure from cynicism and a little bit of kind of, whether it's in movie making or just in society in general, trying to find a way to come back to like a sincerity or sentimentality, and kind of being unafraid to be a little bit corny.
Departure from cynicism.
Which I like. I like corny stuff sometimes, and I think that's the only way you can get something that feels really earnest is if you play within that gray area where it's like, you know, just taking something really at face value and trying to really see yourself in someone else and not kind of holding them at arm's length.
Mm-hmm. And I think a lot of times there is a fear of earnestness. You know, people can be really, you know, worried about being truly genuine, being earnest, and that, you know, you wanted to go there. You wanted to, you know, not have a cynical point of view, you know.
For sure. I mean, there's definitely like cynical parts of the movie. I mean, it's sort of trying to represent what the gamut of the human experience right now is, and I think a lot of that is sort of this cynical, disconnected, discombobulated thing. But I do think, yeah, there's a bit of the kind of like Maslow's hierarchy of needs in there, of sort of, we've built all this stuff, and so we can spiral and worry about all these things and spiral our way into these little boxes of being lonely. But I think when it comes down to it, when you're faced with like a real crisis or choice about your life or someone you care about, all that stuff hopefully fades away, and you can actually have like a, you know, sincere human connection.
You know, a film like this in particular that has 3 different storylines and, you know, it tells such a sprawling narrative. You know, how do you, I mean, just a film set in general can be a place where there's so much going on, and, you know, there could be an element of chaos in a way, but how do you find your focus on sets? How do you dial in to the present moment and know what you need to do?
That's 2 words, script supervisor. Like, they're really amazing. They stay on point. They hold you to it. They make sure you know where you're coming from and where you're going to. So there's definitely like a tiny army that's built to support that journey, because it is so irregular and erratic and chaotic. But also in that chaos is kind of sweet, because I feel like obviously we're all there to tell the same story that we know quite well. And so sometimes it's nice to forget something and to lose where you are, to let some parts of the story that you've swallowed so deeply come out, whether you like it or not, you know? And so I like that. I worked on a film where we did it consecutively, where we actually shot in sequence.
Whoa.
And I was like, I don't know if I gained anything. You know, like, there is something to gain, but I kind of like having a little bit of the chaos of, like, you know, shooting the end of the film at the beginning and the, you know, middle at the end. I don't know.